like, give me a kiss. What is wrong? Are you okay? I was not okay. I lost a toenail. Hi guys, welcome back to Anna's Guide. I am so happy that you're here. If you're wondering why I'm sitting down on this couch in my living room and I'm in a little bit different space than I normally am for my podcast recordings, it's because I unfortunately can't walk up the stairs. And not only can I not walk up the stairs, I also cannot walk down them. It's actually harder to walk down them than to walk up them. So I decided that I would save myself the pain and suffering and stay down here. And if you're wondering why, if you missed it on socials, the reason I can't walk up the stairs is because I ran the London Marathon this weekend, which was, I can't even find the words, one of the most surreal, beautiful, incredible, empowering, show-stopping, club, another club, bus, plane, another club kind of energy. Let me just give you a little number real quick. 56,000 people ran the marathon. When I ran in Honolulu, it was 25,000. So this is not only double the amount of people that ran the last marathon that I ran, 750,000 people are on the sidelines watching and cheering. And I kid you not, every single step, not only every mile, it wasn't like, oh, we passed someone every mile. Every single second of the marathon was screaming. The best crowds, the best people, the best energy I've ever experienced in a marathon. But I did not, that's not fair to say. I was going to say I did not have the best run of my life because genuinely I kind of did. I did have the best run statistically, but in some ways when I crossed the finish line, I still felt like I failed. So today, lightly speaking, I am going to talk about Anna's Guide to Failure. And before we get into it, let's start with our usual rosebud thorn. As you know, share with your friend, send me in my DMs. You can do that over at the Anna Guide on Instagram and TikTok. My roast this week, I think, is pretty obvious. I'm going to say the marathon and the fact that I did a personal best. When I ran the Honolulu Marathon, I finished it in over 4 hours and 40 minutes. And for this marathon, I did it in 4 hours and 13 minutes. So that is a 30-minute improvement between my past two marathons. And going into this weekend, my one real goal that I had set in stone was that I wanted to do better than the last marathon that I ran. Maybe we should finish Rosebud Thorns before I talk about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Moments before the marathon started, my brother and I were like, what if we just, you know what I mean? Like, our goal is to run, 9:30 to 10-minute miles? Who's going to say no if we suddenly are running 8:15s? And for some reason, the adrenaline and the delusion really kicked in, and that's what really inspired this week's episode. But we're going to talk about that in one quick minute because also my bud for this week is that I don't know what's next. I've been in a marathon bubble for the past 5 months because I ran longer than that. I started training for my first marathon in about, truthfully, October, and I ran it in December. I think when I did the math, it was right around 11 weeks was my first group of marathon training before the Honolulu Marathon. 3 days after getting home from Honolulu, I got a call about London and immediately accepted. And then I also was already training for the Lava Man. So kind of starting January 1st, I did back-to-back Lava Man triathlon, Olympic length training into marathon training, which I did the Lava Man 3 weeks ago. So I've had a pretty consistent workout schedule with 2 things on my agenda that I was training for. I have now completed both. So what now? That's my bud. My bud is the what now. How exciting is that I get to pick anything? Truthfully, on my mind is a little bit of doing a 73, which if you don't know what that is a half Ironman. I think you still get called an Ironman if you could do a 73. Listen, with love, no interest in a full length. I actually might just stop at the Olympic length try because that's really fun. I really enjoy that distance and I did not leave it hurting. I left the marathon much less hurting, but it's 2 days post marathon, I still can't climb my stairs. So I think what's been on my mind a lot for my bud is just the what's next question and getting really excited for the potential of something new as well as the potential of getting better at what I'm already really enjoying. So I'm sure we're going to see some TikToks about that this coming week of me trying to brainstorm what I'm doing next. If I could say what I want to do next, I would really love to run the New York City Marathon. Obviously, I think a lot of people have that on their bucket list. That is for sure a pipe dream. I know that London was very difficult to get into, and so I'm really honored that I got the chance to. I got in a different way by getting sponsored to run it. But I would love to do New York. I would love to do London again. And I think if I could plan it properly, I don't know how to go this way, I would love to run London for charity. There were so many charities at this marathon, and I genuinely haven't seen that. Maybe it's just because I'm so new to the running sport as a whole and to like marathoning. I would say over 50% of the people running the marathon were running it for a charity, and a majority of the people on the sidelines were parts of those charities cheering us on to run. And so I think it'd be incredible to get to raise money. I would love to do it for like young women in math and sciences, or like women in STEM, or like getting girls into more like male dominated fields and like math and science opportunities, or like art in schools. I think is really valuable, and still encouraging that in the school system, or like women in colleges, like anything kind of relating like women to math and science or education, because I think that's a lot where my heart is and where a lot of like my passion comes from. So that's also, I think, like figuring out how to do that is my next goal. I don't know how to get from this point to that point, but that's how we get here, and that's why it's my bud. That was the longest bud I think I've ever given in my life, because I told like 75 stories in it. But my thorn, I actually have it blank on my little notepad. My thorn is currently blank, and I'm just going to say, because I think that it goes into the conversation of today, my thorn is the feeling of failure, period. Okay. And what's interesting is I did accomplish something incredible this weekend, something that I've not only never done before. I hit a goal in some way, but also failed internally in another. And I always hear people kind of joke about this. You have the goal that you tell people and the goal that's your pipeline. You have the goal that you're like, my goal is to do better than I did my last run. But I think secretly deep down, I was kind of like, it would be fun to run a sub-4 marathon. Some people kind of joked about it in my comment section when I saw it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I feel like I probably could do that. And even my brother and I had talked about that would be an amazing accomplishment, is to be within the 3-hour mark. So a 3 at the beginning of our number. And I ran a 4:13. Pretty much to run a sub-4 marathon, you have to maintain right around a 9-minute mile or less. I'm pretty sure that would, like, to really guarantee, I think 8:30s is what my brother and I had kind of talked about, because usually you want to leave a little bit of time just in case an emergency happens and you have to stop at a bathroom. I've gotten really lucky at both marathons. I have not stopped for a restroom at either marathon that I've run. So knock, knock, that maintains and that keeps going. But there was a little part of me deep down that thought about running a sub-4 marathon. And when I hit a point during the run where everything started to feel like it was crashing on me a little bit, not in my body, but in my spirit, which is really interesting. And we'll talk about that in a second. I realized that I wasn't going to reach the goal. And I started to kind of get upset with myself. Even though I was running the pace that I trained for, which I trained at 9:30s to 10-minute miles, all of my training. So I don't know why for 5 seconds before the race, I was like, whatever, I'll just go faster than I usually do. It definitely backfired on me a little bit. Not in an aggressive way, because my splits were still incredibly strong for where I was. I remember crossing a finish line and being like, actually, it wasn't when I crossed the finish line. I actually had a lot better feeling when I crossed the finish line. It was kind of within the last 6 miles where I kind of realized, unless I started running 8-minute miles out of nowhere, it was not happening for me this time around. And at that time, I was running, I think, around a 9:45 pace. To increase my pace at the end of my body's battery, a minute and a half was impossible. And this whole episode is actually not going to be about the marathon. Even though this really, I'm starting for the first 11 minutes of it pretty strongly talking about it. I'm going to talk about this idea of failure and how it inspired me to talk more about it in everyday life. Because I think, like a lot of us, I have a big fear of failure. I have a fear of not being good enough, or fear of trying new things for the fear of failure, because I don't want to do something that I look bad doing, or that I'm not impressive if I do it, or that, hey, if I tell people that I did this, then they're going to know when it doesn't happen. And the moral of the story is I learned to get over my fear of failure by running, actually, which is kind of crazy, because with running, you will realize there are so many different skill levels. There are so many different people running these marathons. Even when I look at myself and I look at the people running the marathons, even at other creators who are runners, I become a little bit self-conscious that I am not the fastest runner. I'm sorry, I'm not running 7-minute miles. I'm trying to decide if I could run a 7-minute mile, even not in a marathon setting. Okay? That's so incredibly impressive. And there's people who can do that and who are incredible for doing that. But their ability to do that does not take away from the joy and excitement that I feel while also running, fast or slow. And also, my achievements can still be successes for me, even if they're maybe not a full, exact, 100% what I thought it was going to be at the end of the day success. As in, I can still finish the marathon in incredibly faster time than I did and still feel a little bit disappointed that I didn't go as fast as I wanted to, but know that I achieved something. No matter what you run a marathon, no matter how fast, no matter what pace, no matter what splits, no matter how much it fluctuated from beginning to end, you still did the 26.2 miles, the same amount that everybody else did, and you still get the exact same medal at the end of it. Because that's still an incredible achievement. Talking for one more second about the marathon, I'm going to give a quick breakdown of what it felt like and what was going through my mind on this day. So my brother and I got really lucky. My brother June and I ran this marathon and decided that the morning of, he was just going to write up a little idea for how we would break down the splits of this marathon if we decided to go a sub-4 marathon pace. And I was down for it. At that point, I was like, what do we have to lose by trying? That truthfully was my open-mindedness on that morning. I simply just thought, if we don't do it, then we don't do it. But why start the day without even thinking about it a little bit? You know, like, who is losing if you don't try? We are, you know? No one has to know that we were trying it. No one has to know that it was on our mind a little bit. My boyfriend's little sister just got engaged. And you know what the first thing is that's on her mind? A bachelorette party, which means I'm trying to help plan because I want to get her in a great spot. And I think the secret to a great bachelorette party is having an Airbnb, because that means that we can all stay together, all the girlies in the same place. It means that we get more communal spaces, a bit more privacy from the world, and most of all, we can do it right with Airbnb. I've had some incredible Airbnb experiences inside the country and outside of the country. And I think the one thing that I always love about it, and the first that comes to mind, is actually a bachelorette party that I did a few years ago with my friend Kaylee. The best part is that we got there early. We got to prep the space before all the other girls came. And it kind of felt like we were living in our own girls' getaway house for an entire weekend in Chicago. Some trips really are just better in an Airbnb. We get there on race day. This is a remarkably later race day than what I've had on any of my other sporting events. We had our start time at 10:20 a.m. We had to be at the location at 9-ish. It was about an hour commute, so we boarded the train at 7:30 because the train left every 30 minutes from downtown London to the starting location. So we actually left at 7:30, so we had a plenty window just in case something happened, like the trains were overcrowded and stopped taking people, or you had to wait for the next train to get on, you know, like in case there was like a overflow issue. We had a feeling most runners were taking the train that morning. So we got lucky and we went at 7:30, got on the first train. We actually both got seats, which was not everyone got seats on the train. A lot of people were standing for the 35-minute ride. Sat down, did my deep breaths, kind of meditated a little bit, got to the location, ended up having to walk like a good 1.5 or 2 miles to get to the start line where our corral was, which we were in the red zone. So we had our own area that we were starting from. We got there, chilled, bathroom, water, ate some more food because we were trying to like make sure we kept our energy high. Long story short, started the race. First 8 miles, phenomenal. On top of my game, actually. Remarkably hotter outside than I've ever experienced in London before, but I felt good. We had like one moment where someone in front of us fell and we stopped to help them get back up. Other than that, we got her up, checked that she was good, and kept running. It was pretty early in the race too, so we weren't that stressed about timing or any of that. We were just enjoying it and soaking up the people. Something happened at mile 9. I took my gels at mile 5.5 to be prepared to start mile 6, and they didn't work, okay? I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody else who's run before, and if you don't know what gels are, it's pretty much just like a little like packet of sugar and like sodium. It usually will just give you a boost of energy, help with a little bit of cramping, kind of keep your system with, it will just give you energy. Some people take caffeinated ones. I normally prefer non-caffeinated because I get anxiety. So I have always avoided caffeinated ones. I was afraid they would mess up my stomach or make me have to go to the bathroom while I was running or give me a panic attack while I'm running. I'm not sure if that's possible, but it freaked me out that it would be. So I've never taken a caffeinated one. And so I took my gels and suddenly started crashing. Not in my body though, in like my energy. Like I just got sluggish. And I don't know if it was the time change, the time zone, but I had the feeling at mile 10 that I had in my last marathon at mile 18. At mile 18, my body was failing in my last marathon though. In mile 10, I was like feeling incredible, but like no energy to give. And I was trying to speed up and keep up with my brother, but I literally could not catch him. As you can imagine, that means that I had 16 more miles to run and I was out of energy. Luckily, June had an extra caffeine pack and I've never taken a caffeine, but in this moment I was desperate and I said, give me that right now. And I took half of it because I also was still scared of the caffeine. That got me to mile 18, okay? We survived till 18. At that point, I actually took another one of his gels because now I didn't trust my gels and I was nervous as I felt my energy going down again. And then at mile 20, I've never experienced this before. Should I have stopped? Maybe. But I refused to quit. And even as we're doing this run, I remember hitting the half marathon pace and my brother turning to me and being like, hey, based off of our time right now, we have to sub 2 hours this next half marathon if we want to be sub 4 hours. Initially, I did not have the confidence for that. And obviously it didn't happen. But at mile 20, I'm like still telling myself like, I'm going to do this. Like I'm going to make it. And then my vision went. I like got full. I had like the thing where you get like the tunnel, like it goes like dark around the outsides and gets closed. And I legitimately stopped in place and I had to stand there and I yelled like, hey, I'm going. And my brother stopped and turned around and like kind of grabbed me and held me up for a second. And I like waited for my vision to come back and then just started running again. Haven't had that happen before. I don't think it was dehydration because I was really good at drinking my waters. I think that maybe that's what some people call the wall. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But that moment definitely scared me. And at that rate, I was like, okay, I think I need to slow down my pace to being an actual like consistent and just not even casual pace, but a more comfortable pace. I think that I at that moment got a little bit freaked out and thought that I was pushing myself too hard. So I slowed back down again and we pretty much ran the rest of the marathon. When we hit the 4 hour mark, we were about a mile and a half, I want to say, away from the finish line. So we were like, okay, a good try. I think I felt a little bit of discouragement in that moment. And then after that, we knew my mom was close to the finish line. So I kind of turned to my brother and I was like, hey, we should stop and say hi to mom. Like now who cares? You know what I mean? Now we really, instead of having a good time, like a clock, we can have a good time, like enjoy ourselves. We suddenly started cheering again. We started hyping up the crowd. We're running on the sides, giving high fives. I'm like cheering for everyone around me. You kind of like, once that pressure was gone, I really enjoyed myself. And I even enjoyed myself early on. I think I stopped for a second enjoying myself from like mile 10 to mile 22, I would say. And if you've seen Brew's video of him giving me the banana, I would like to disclaim, he caught me at the worst possible mile that he could have tried to hand me a banana. With love, I was like in the trenches, okay? My brain, I had nothing to give at that moment. So when he yelled and I just saw him, I literally like just ran as a way to slow down for a second to like grab the banana and he literally was like, give me a kiss. What is wrong? Are you okay? I was not okay. There was nothing left to give. And so I was legitimately at the end of my rope. And then once you hit mile like 24, you're like, okay, slay, marathon, super fun, super enjoyable. So if anybody has seen that video, just know I was not actually mad. I think I was just in the depths of despair. What can I say? So we end up getting to the last stretch of the marathon. We see my mom. We run over, we give her a big hug. We pretty much get her on the corner. And in that moment, all the energy comes back. Of course, as it always does. When you see that sign that says like 300 yards to go, I was like, let's start cooking. Like now we're here. My brother and I ran into the end and I just felt so overwhelmingly excited and proud about the finish. It was amazing. It felt great. And for the first time too, I remember finishing my last marathon and having a Charlie horse in this leg, a pain in my side, a pain in the shoulder. All like my feet were hurt. I lost a toenail the last time I ran, okay? I crossed the finish line and like walked over to the grass and sat down for a little bit. I stood back up. I walked around. I had no pain. I had no injuries. Fun fact, if you run and you get injuries or pain in your feet, please size up a shoe. I sized up an entire shoe size and went to a wide size, and it like literally cured my feet pain. There was a moment during the race itself, which is now circling back. This is where we're going to get to the real topic of this episode, so I know it took me a minute to get here, but there was a moment that I felt like I failed during the marathon. And I know from social media you can sit there and watch people who run Boston or any of these achievements. And to be honest, the marathon pace that I ran was still a crazy, incredible achievement for me in my own personal life. But in the back of my head, there was a part of me that was like, dang, like you ran that far. I would have been even more upset if I ran like a 4:01. Like that would have really pissed me off, in all honesty. With this, I would have had to shave 30 seconds off every single split of my marathon in order to get the pace that I thought that I was going to run. So there's a part of me that's also like, that's another training block to do that. That's a difficult task. But why am I kind of excited? And why am I kind of ready for it? And tell me why, reaching that finish line, I immediately turned to my brother and went, I want to do it again. I want another chance. And I just want to say that that is what I think is the most important part of this episode and the most important part of a lesson that you can learn, because on social media, people romanticize this idea that you ran this marathon and every moment of it looks incredible and every second is so fun. And they say like, oh my gosh, I pushed myself so hard, but look at how good it was. You're fighting demons out there, okay? No matter who says that, like, and I feel like I also sometimes watch other runners and I'm like, you make it look so easy. And I was like suffering to get through this. I feel like I also sometimes post the romantic parts of my marathon because that is when I felt my best. That is when I felt really good about it. But I also remember mile 10 when I like wanted to weep and stop and walk. But I knew that I would be even more mad at myself for walking than for just running it at the pace that I was more comfortable with. Because that was another goal. Don't stop to walk this whole thing. My last marathon, I did stop to walk when I would grab waters. This time, my brother and I actually traded. And when I started to get slow, he was like, I'm going to run and get us waters and I'll hand you your bottle. Because London does a thing where they hand you bottles of water instead of actually cups. He's like, I'll go get our waters. You keep running and you keep the pace. And I did not stop, except for almost passing out at mile 20 when I blacked out. That was the only time that I maybe slowed down. I did stop for like a second there, but I didn't stop running at any point to walk instead. And that's also an incredible achievement because I would like to flash back real quick. In July of last year, 10 months ago, I landed in Michigan for a weekend with my boyfriend's family, and his little sister said, would you like to run a 5K with us? And I said yes. And we ran a 5K at 10-minute and 30-second miles. And I nearly passed out at the end of running 3 miles. I want to really let that sit there for a second. I legitimately turned to my boyfriend and said, I hate running. I'm never running again. If I tell you I'm signing up for a 5K again, take my phone away. And I will literally post a video of me running that 5K because I think about that constantly when I see myself or think about how I felt crossing the finish line on Sunday this Sunday. That's crazy. And I have the audacity to get angry at myself during a run and say, but you didn't say you were going to do exactly what you did really deep down as your pipeline dream and your Delulu, like whatever. I think why I didn't like running then was because, yeah, I finished it, but I at that moment was like, that's the farthest I'll ever be able to run. I felt like such crap. And I was convinced that that was the farthest. So if I ever tried again, I would fail, was the reason I didn't like running. But then I trained a little bit and I ran a little bit slower and I got a bit more comfortable and I put on the right shoes and all of those things. And suddenly, even the little achievements of going an extra mile or 10 seconds faster or twice in 1 week felt like I wasn't failing so bad. And let's talk about it. I think that we can look at fear of failure before we even begin and think that that is a thing that should stop us from trying anything. And let's cut out the marathons from it. I'll tell you a fear of failure that I think a lot of people have. A lot of my girlies, I think, have. I'm not going to post a video online because it's embarrassing. It could flop. My friends will think it's weird. It's going to be cringy. And then I think, okay, if you go deep enough in my camera roll, if you go deep enough into my TikToks, yeah, they're bad. They're so cringy. They're so embarrassing. But can you imagine where I would be if I wasn't okay with potentially failing or being embarrassing or being cringy that early on, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you. Also, fear of failure. I'm pretty sure it's hearing back from getting into college season. And I remember hearing back a no from every single college I wanted to go to. You think I didn't feel like I absolutely failed? And like that was the end of my life. Like I was like, this is the end. I'm never leaving home and I'm going to live here forever and I'm never going to get into anything and none of my dreams are going to come true and I'm not going to have the college experience that I wanted because I'm not going to a Big 10 school or a big fancy school and blah, 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 blah. Heck yeah, I thought that. But how lucky am I that I got into school that I did get into, Western Michigan University, go Broncos. And not only that, it was the greatest blessing to end up there. And if it was a splash of luck, I used all my luck to get into grad school. I applied to one grad school and got in. And it probably was because I had a great story about getting over the failure and still believing in myself and still doing a difficult field and still having passion, even after knowing that there was chances that it wasn't going to work out in my favor. Also, let's talk about some more. I literally wrote all these down. Your fear of dating because you're afraid it's not going to last forever. I'm looking right at you. Listen, I can think of so many stories of going on dates and literally thinking like, that was such a waste of my time because it didn't work out or because that wasn't the right person or that guy sucked, whatever it was. Thank goodness I dated a couple people and learned a couple things and realized that's not a quality that I want in a partner. That is a quality that I want in a partner. I wish my partner would do this more, or I think I like this about this person. And somehow it molded me into finding the person that I was actually meant to be with, who flew to London for one day to watch me run a marathon. Do you know what I mean? If we treat every scenario like I don't want to take that risk because there's a chance that's not going to happen, the worst that can happen is you actually just don't learn anything. It's actually not that you fail. It's that you get nothing out of it. Because us doing a little pipeline dream in this marathon and thinking, what do we have to lose? What's the worst that could happen? What, we don't hit the goal? Do you want to know what that did for me? Not reaching my goal on Sunday, not reaching my like little sub 4 deep mental. That wasn't even my real, let me just also add, that wasn't even my real goal. But all it did for me is I crossed the finish line, I said, I kind of want to start training harder and do it again. Because the goal doesn't go away just because you failed the first time. The dream doesn't just disintegrate just because you said, oh, I didn't do it. It stays there. If it's meant to be for you too. Trust me, if the dream goes away just because you failed, I don't think it was the right dream. I don't think you actually cared that much about it. And I want that to be a soul-searching moment of like, did I only care about that because of how it would make me look, or did I care about that because it's actually something that I wanted to achieve? Because I think if I didn't get the sub 4 and I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, I never want to run a marathon again because I don't want to risk someone seeing me not be fast, that would have been simply for the viewership of someone else. Does that make sense? That would have simply been because I wanted to seem impressive, not because I wanted myself to be able to achieve that goal. That's not fair to anybody. Also, I want to add too, similarly to talking about this idea of like failing and maybe those dreams getting you closer, I think that my school experience is a really great example of reframing your idea of failure as an opportunity to get a step closer to your success. And I think along the way, you learn things in failure that could redirect you altogether. Maybe if it doesn't work out and you realize that that wasn't something that you wanted at all, that's a good thing. Imagine if you got what you wanted your first time around and then you were like, okay, what now? You know, like I guess it's not that exciting or it's not that joyful or it's not that full that I thought it was going to be. Then you really have to figure out what you're going to do again. I think that sometimes failure can just act as a simple, like, gosh, I love this analogy and I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it again. We've all heard me say the sailboat analogy where you're either going to be a speedboat or a sailboat, and maybe this is a great example of where you can be both, okay? Often in life, I picture myself as a sailboat, okay? You can be either one. Maybe you're both. Usually I see myself as a sailboat. I don't really have a final goal. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going where the wind takes me, and I'm stopping at islands along the way and enjoying whatever happens as they come. These islands are my opportunities, okay? I don't know what the end goal is. Did I think I was going to be running marathons a year ago? Absolutely forking not. My legs hate me today. They didn't want this for me. My heart is happy, though. Slay. But I often see myself as a sailboat, where I say yes to opportunities because they seem kind of like a why not? And exciting in the moment, and they make me excited, and I work towards that island, and I steer my ship, and I let the winds fill my sails. But some people are speedboats. They know where they're going. They said, you want to know what that island? It's tropical, it's beautiful, it's filled with all my dreams. I'm going there. And they get on their boat, and they go as fast as possible from point A to point B. Slay. You know what you want. The issue is when you hit that island and you hit your goal, you have to figure out a new one, and then you have to speedboat to the next new spot. versus a sailboat is a bit more go with the flow. And often in life, I think I prefer to be a sailboat. Now, in this particular opportunity, there's a part of me that kind of feels like a speedboat, where I'm like, I kind of want to just like jet my way and get it over with. And maybe that is the experience that I want to have. There's also a part of me that's like, I kind of just want to do it once and then just have fun from here on out. Like I want to do it once to be like, slay. And then kind of run marathons in like fun outfits or something, or for charity, or like with all of my friends, or get like a run club going and we run marathons as a like so fun. So fun. So the things can change and ebb and flow. And something that I want to say is sometimes I think your failures might be you trying to dock at an island and not actually getting off. Maybe you stopped there and it's not the island that you thought it was going to be, and your directions were wrong and you didn't follow the stars the right way and you got to try again. Doesn't mean that the island that you landed on was bad though. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't maybe like great lessons that you learned. Like, I don't know, how to turn the ship. Okay, maybe we're too deep in my boat analogy, but you know what I mean. The island that you're stopping at might not actually be that bad. And the failure that you had might be a blessing. Maybe it's a good thing. I hope at the end of the day, you can reframe your idea of failure as something that you're really proud of yourself for accomplishing and trying anyway. Because I think we spend too much time worrying about how failure looks instead of knowing how failure feels. And I think it can be encouraging. I think failure can be a chance for you to say, this really matters to me and I want to do this. Or a chance to say, you know what? I actually don't feel that bad now that I failed. Maybe I didn't care that much at all. And that's actually amazing too. That's an incredible learning lesson too. That's not a bad thing. I hope that you have the chance to fail 100 times and then get that victory that feels like the most incredible thing. I think if everything came, I keep telling myself, if everything came easy, then everybody would do it. If everything was so simple, then we would all be doing the same thing. And it's not meant to be simple. It's meant to be challenging because that's how you feel like you've accomplished it. And so that's what I hope for you, is that in your failures, you can see them as such good things, and that you can see them as little accomplishments and amazing finishes in their own way, even if at first they don't feel like it. Because I can tell you, just drawing back to this last experience I just had 2 days ago, in the moment I felt like I was failing. I ran for 10 miles thinking, I'm so mad at myself. I wish I could have just... I was mad at my body, which is a weird thing. It was a very weird thing in my brain to feel. I was mad at myself for not having the energy, but having done the work, because physically I felt great. It's something I can't even explain. I just legitimately felt tired, not even in an endurance way, because my body was enduring just fine. I can't explain it. But for 10 miles, I was like, dang it. And then I kind of got to that last mile and I was like, wait, but how lucky am I? This is so fun. And look at my body moving. And that's my mom right there. I got a cute ass photo with hugging my mom at the finish line. I literally cried. She literally cried. Why are we not surprised? And then I crossed the finish line. I put my name back in the ballot for next year's London Marathon before I even ran the race. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm hoping it's 1% to get chosen in the ballot. I would do anything to do it again. It was incredible. And that's an accomplishment in itself that I'm just that was great. And think about how happy I am and how good I feel. Even during the race, when my brain was saying, you're doing a bad job, you're not doing enough, you're running so slow, you're not going to reach your goals, you're not going to be great enough, it's going to be a horrible finish, and you're going to feel tired, and it's going to get worse from here, and you still have 16 more miles to go, and you're not doing good enough. But we didn't fail. We ran a marathon. You're going to get into your dream school, or you're not. And you're going to get your dream job, or you're not. And you're going to fall in love, and you're going to fall out of love, and the relationship's going to go great, and then it's going to suck. And you're going to have incredible things that come after it that make it even worth every single moment that you had pain. How exciting. Better to feel something than nothing at all. The end. That's a wrap. That's all I have for you today. That's my whole notebook. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Thank you for watching this episode. Thanks for joining along on Anna's Guide. Don't forget that you can follow along at the Anna Guide on Instagram and TikTok. You can follow my personal at Anna X Sitar. And you can also watch all the video versions of these episodes over on YouTube at Anna's Guide. I can't wait to see you next week. I'm already looking forward to it. And if there's any questions, comments, or anything, don't forget you can always call me at my fan line right here and give me a ring about any of your questions. We need to, I think, have another little Anna Answers moment, because those make me so happy to get to hear voices on the other side of the phone. One other thing I want to say to any of the friends who are watching this episode and also were spectating at the London Marathon or running the London Marathon, thank you. You guys were out of this world. listen, I was not expecting it because usually when I go out of the country, I do not get to meet many friends. I met more friends than I've ever met in my entire life on this past trip that I just went on. I saw signs for me at the marathon from complete, like, you're my friends online, but they were like, I saw them, and I obviously, like, it's a stranger in a way too, you know? And I saw so many signs, so much encouragement. I just want to say thank you, and I love you so dearly for being so kind this whole week and cheering me on. Also, even on socials, you guys have been so feel good and making me feel so good. So I just want to say thank you for all the positive energy. I'm really excited to keep sharing not only a fitness journey with you, but gosh, this week of recovery, I have to figure out how I'm going to get up off this couch. And also all the good things to come. I have a feeling there's some really good things to come, and we just don't even know it yet. So I love ya, and that's a wrap. I'll see you next week. Bye.